I'm not hearing anything.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to our part two of Fundamentals of English. We are going to be looking at punctuation, paragraph, and direct speech. Now, some of these symbols you see on screen, you would often see when you are reading certain articles, books and magazines, and periodicals, and things of that nature. And very often, like me, you may wonder what are the reasons that these symbols called punctuation marks are contained within a given document. Now, the reason for this lesson is that very often persons tend to throw the punctuation marks all around. But there are actually guidelines or standards or acceptable practices for writing or including certain punctuation marks. I will hasten to say that today, at the end of the lesson, you are going to be given an exercise which you'll be expected to complete and return via email to me for checking. I also want to remind you that there's a deadline for this evening, 5 o'clock, for those who were in class on Tuesday. And there is also a deadline for this class, which will be Monday coming at 5 p.m. So, punctuation marks are symbols that we use to separate sentences or parts of sentences to make that
Excuse
sentence.
me, good morning, Mr. Hinds.
Yes?
I'm not seeing a screen.
All right, let me go back to share. Is this the case of everyone else?
I can see the screen.
All right. If that's the case, then
So
the
see
person who just spoke may need to make some adjustments to their device.
I
If you're
can't see the
sharing something right
screen.
now and we're just saying it says G4S Academy Fundamentals of English Part 2.
That's it.
Pardon? The last thing at the
All
bottom
I'm
of the screen, you should see the word underscore and the symbol in brackets. Is everybody seeing that?
No, please.
I'm
No, please.
all I'm seeing is a lady's face.
A lady's face? This is a puzzle for me. Mr. Aline? Just hold a moment. So could someone tell me how far you are seeing on screen? What is your
The
last
only
word?
thing you're seeing on the screen is the topic that we're doing today.
Is the
Is the topic, the Fundamentals of English Part 2.
topic
Where
and
it says
nothing else?
nothing else, the
Yes,
punctuation and
you're not
paragraph and
seeing
things as
anything
well.
out.
Okay.
Oh, you're
It
seeing it
has
now.
And now you're seeing
I'm seeing it.
the punctuation marks now.
you're now seeing the screen,
Yes.
Yes.
and the last word on the bottom right is
It's
underscore.
underscore.
All right,
Yes.
that's the full screen. Thank you very much. Right, I was saying that punctuation marks are symbols that are used to separate sentences or parts of sentences so that they make the meaning clear. You may be familiar with what we call the period or the full stop, the comma, the semicolon, the colon, the hyphen, the apostrophe, the question mark, the dash, quotation marks, and you have single quotation marks and you have double quotation marks, exclamation mark, ellipsis, round brackets, the underscore. Now, if you go further, you have the square black brackets, you have the curly brackets if you're into maths and algebra and things of that nature. And other sciences, you would see a different set of symbols use, and they're almost unlimited. But these on screen are probably the most common ones that you would see. And in the exercise, you'll be expected to put some of those words, those symbols, into the exercise that you'll be expected to address. Right.
Excuse me, please. Can I have a word?
Pardon?
Can I have a
I didn't
word,
hear.
please? Can I have a word?
Go right ahead.
Tell Maureen turn off her mic. You can hear her background.
Okay. Thanks, Maureen. No. So we will not go into each individual mark at this point. When we are doing the exercise, that is when they're going to make more sense and we're going to apply the various principles. Another challenge we have, and this is an exercise for the group, is using sentences or statements that are unclear. We tend to call them ambiguous statements. They're unclear, and it leaves the reader or the listener either confused or uncertain about what the writer or speaker is actually trying to say or the message they're trying to convey. Now, on screen in blue, my apologies, the woman slapped her daughter because she was drunk. At this point in time, I would like any participants to tell me if, in their view, this statement is ambiguous or if it is clear and easily understood. Read it, look at it, and tell me if you think this is a clear statement or an unambiguous statement. So
It's a
I'm
clear.
asking for feedback. We're doing a lot of dialoguing today. It's
It's
not
a
going to be a
clear
lecture.
statement.
Go right ahead. It's clear?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's a clear
All right.
statement.
So everybody
Yes,
agree it is clear.
yes,
No, I
Miss
don't
B.
agree. It's an ambiguous statement.
Who said ambiguous?
John.
Right. Could you tell us why you think it is ambiguous?
Okay, because in my understanding, according to the punctuations, you're not sure whether the woman slapped her daughter because she was drunk. Who was drunk? The woman
Good.
or
That's a
her
very
daughter?
good observation, John. So even though a lot of persons in reading this sentence assume or saw it as clear, the sentence does not say who was drunk. Was it the mother or the woman who was drunk when she slapped her daughter? Or was it the daughter who was drunk that caused the mother to slap her? Are you seeing that angle now, other participants? Look at it again.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
please.
That is why when we are reading, we try to read with an understanding. And when we are writing, whether it be a report, a letter, a note, one must make sure that the information that you're disseminating is clear. You know, sometimes we say, man, I wrote this person something and they don't understand. And let's say that is what you wrote to the person. Like John, you're gonna have a difficulty. I have been told that this woman slapped this other woman because she was drunk. Who was drunk? Was it the mother that was drunk? Or was it the daughter who was drunk? So now, as a group, I want you to get your notepad and I want you to write down the unambiguous way that you would express that sentence. You can change it around if you want to. You can add in words, you can leave out words, but I want you know to write it so that it is unambiguous, that it is clear that when the reader sees it, that he or she has no doubt who was drunk. That is assignment number one that has to be sent via email. And you can put everything on one page when you're going to email it for Monday. So go right ahead and write what you think will be the correct way of expressing this sentence. And I pause for a moment so that you can think and you can write it. I don't want to leave anyone behind in today's session. That means you all to here. Telephone man, WhatsApp. Put on the flipping phone and do the work. Are we ready to go?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I have some face-to-face participants who asked me for a moment longer, so I will indulge them. Because all you need to do is write down how you would express this sentence differently so it does not confuse the reader. You would know who was drunk when the slap was dished out. So all you need to do is to write down the blue and then get the correct thing to send later. Right. I have to move on in the interest of time and my online um, class mates. Good. Now we're doing what is called dealing with direct speech or using quotes in a sentence or a statement. On screen, as I told you from the outset, we are going to be doing some activities this morning. I'm not going to be talking all the time. So we're looking on screen, and I hope everybody can sing. The first word on the screen is inserted. The last word is started. While being interviewed on live television, the witness said to the news reporter, I was not at home when the fire broke out in the house. Looking at this statement, is that the correct way that you would express it if you had to write it down? If not, I want you to write and submit for Monday the correct way that you would express this quotation, this direct speech made by the witness. Having an interview on the television, speaking to the reporter, this is what the witness said. I was not at home when the fire broke out in the house. Is it correctly stated? Is it in its proper parenthesis or quotation marks? Is something missing? Should there be a comma somewhere, a full stop somewhere, some other punctuation symbol like the first slide we had on screen this morning? So you make that decision. Now, if you think there's nothing wrong with the statement, it is good to go, just resubmit it as is. If you think it needs to be changed or rearranged based on your knowledge of using punctuation, then make those changes or rearrangements. And the same thing will happen. The next one says a common mistake normally would be the witness said to the news reporter that she was not at home when the fire started. Is this the correct way of expressing the statement or the quotation that the quote that the witness made? If you agree with it, resubmit it on Monday as it is. If not, make your changes. And like I say, you can add in some words, you can take up some words, put in punctuation, what have you. But we want you to express it the correct way. So I pause for a few moments so you have the information copied down. Now these slides are not copyrighted, so if you want to take a photograph of it, rather than writing out everything, you are free to do so. I hope everybody's following and my explanations are clear. Now we must bear in mind that direct speech is usually what is actually said by the speaker. So when the speaker makes a statement and you're going to transpose or transcribe it, you do not rearrange it in any form or fashion, even if you want to make it standard English or standard grammar. So if the speaker says to you, I wasn't at home when the fire broke out in the house, then to accurately describe that sentence, you would have to rewrite it in the same words and manner that the person has spoken. Now, if, however, it was reported speech, it would be done in a different format. So I hope my instructions are clear, and I'm asking if I can move on a bit further. Can I? My
Yes,
online.
please.
Very
Yes,
good.
please.
Thank you. And everybody's aware of what is expected. Now, this aspect of our fundamentals of English has been problematic over time. From secondary school right through to tertiary education, the teachers, the tutors, and the professors always complain that the students do not know how to write good English. They do not know how to paragraph. They do not know when a sentence should have a full stop, where a comma, a colon, a semicolon, or other symbols should be inserted. This one thing I want to say here and now, that a paragraph is a group of related sentences that are put together to express a single theme, a single idea, or a single thought. So when you're writing paragraphs or you're writing anything and you need to make more than one paragraph, then you should only express a single theme, a single idea, a single thought in each paragraph. We tend to do what is called run-ons. And a run-on is where you might just, as we say, drop down a comma or a full stop and just keep writing. And sometimes you end up confusing the expose, you end up confusing your reader, and sometimes you even confuse ourselves. So the rule of thumb is that a new paragraph is always started on a new line, or if you're typing, a new space. So you finish what you've been typing, whether or not you got to the end of the page, and then you go to the next line and you start typing fresh. That is one indicator that it is a new paragraph. Or you may be required, depending on the type of document, to do what is called an indentation. That is where you would hit the tab key once or twice, depending on how deep you want to indent the next paragraph, and then you would start typing. Or if you're writing, you would come in, and the rule usually you come in under the fifth letter. So you count your letters. So let's say we're going to indent on the USED. So looking on screen, let me get my mouse. USED are four words, and then the space between the D and the T in two. That is where you will now drop your new paragraph using indentation. Or the other form is to put a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in most cases, in the first paragraph, we do not normally put the number 1. Generally, in writing paragraphs, we don't put the number 1. We would start with the second paragraph and we go 2, 3, 4, 5, as the case might be. At this point in time, are there any questions before I move on?
No, please.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is how we are going to spend the remainder of our morning. We have before us a set of paragraphs or a whole long statement. And the exercise will require that we decipher it and determine where we should put certain punctuation marks. I hope everybody had a copy of the first slide with the different types of punctuation marks. Or do you want me to go back so that you can take a photo or you can write it down? Let me know at this point.
Go back,
Good.
please.
You're good to go. So here we have a paragraph which we now need or a
I'm sorry,
sentence.
Mr. Hines. Someone said to go back.
You want me to go back? Let me do
Yes,
that.
please.
No
Someone
problem.
said that.
Right. So you may need to just refresh your mind and your thoughts on the various types of punctuation marks. So we're going to do part of this in class, and then we're going to do the remainder over the weekend at your convenience. So we once again, we want to determine in this particular exercise, where should full stops go? Where should commas go? Is there need for semicolon or colon, hyphen, apostrophe, question marks, quotation marks, the ellipsis, exclamation mark, round brackets, or underscoring? You may not be required to use all of these, but certainly we are going to be using some of these. And as we work on this statement that we have on the last slide, we are going to be thinking in terms of, is that sentence ambiguous, or is it clear, or do I need to rearrange it? Do I need to shift some words around? Do I need to include? Do I need to remove certain words or expressions so that it will make sense? So just let me know when it can go back down to the exercise.
You can go back, please.
Okay, thank you. Now, as I said, you can take a photograph of it or you can write it out, whichever is convenient for you. While you do that, I shall read it through. John is a mechanic and he works at his workshop at home, and he always finishes the repairs on time, and he does a good job. His charges are not very expensive. Last week when I took my car to his workshop and John had an accident and was hospitalized. So after workshop, it should read John had an accident and was hospitalized. His wife, Mary, told me that he was not sure when he would be able to start working again. I was very disappointed and sad when Mary told me that John got injured and could not do any mechanic work. In fact, she told me that John may not be able to do any more mechanic work because of his injuries, and she know that it is going to be real rough for her for a very long time. I just want to wish Mary and John all the best. I left the workshop and went back home feeling for them. After all, I thought to myself, they are a nice family and the children are doing quite well at school. The last girl, Jenny, may be well on her way to gain a scholarship, and she's a good all-round athlete. But nowadays, some young people can be very ungrateful, not appreciating all the sacrifices and the parents make them to succeed in life. Anyhow, I am going home and get me a cup of tea, and I got to find another good mechanic just like John. Now you have before you a whole long paragraph. So the first thing we have to do is look at it sentence by sentence and start to insert the punctuation marks accordingly. Now we're going to do a couple of sentences together so that you would have an appreciation of what is required. Now it is recommended when you're writing, be it report.
Anybody? Oh, I see.
Pardon me? Is someone saying something? Okay. It is recommended that when you're writing, it is best to make short, complete sentences. That way, confusing your reader will become less and less likely. Now, for example, we can write, John is a mechanic, full stop. And then begin the next sentence with a capital letter H. He works at his shop at home, full stop. Those are two simple sentences that convey the message to the reader without any confusion or uncertainty. Or another person may opt to express it like this: John is a mechanic who works at his shop at home, full stop. Anybody see the difference between those two sentences?
Yes, please.
Right, you're seeing the difference. Which one would you adopt? Because both are correct. John is a mechanic, full stop. Next sentence, capital H, he works at his shop at home, full stop. Or you can say John is a mechanic who works at his shop at home, full stop. Either one is correct. And I want you to bear in mind that you have to draw on the lesson, the first lesson with fundamental of English, and bring it into this exercise as well to help you complete the assignment properly. So you have two options to start with. Now, if you use either one, then you will drop the and after whom, and you will go now, capital H. He always finish the repairs on time and does a good job. So you can make that two sentences again. He always, and it cannot be finished with the ed. Remember our tenses. You must say he always finishes the repairs on time. Full stop. I want to pause to ask, is everybody following me at this point?
Yes, I
Yes,
am.
please.
Great.
I actually, yes, I
Good.
am.
So you cannot say he always finished using the past tense. You have to use what is called the present continuous tense, where you put the S on to finish. He always finishes the repairs on time, full stop. You can make that one sentence, and then new sentence, capital H, he does a good job, full stop. Or you can express all of that in one sentence. He always finishes the repairs on time and he does a good job. Full stop. I go to the next one now. At this point in time, now you have written about 4 or 5 sentences. Do you need to start a new paragraph? Or can you continue what you're saying at this point in time? It says his charges are not very expensive. Last week when I took my car to his workshop. So are we going to put the charges into this first paragraph? Or are we going to
And
start a new paragraph with his charges?
You
I
can
mean,
new
start a new
I would
one.
paragraph.
say we can add that
A
on
new
to the
paragraph.
paragraph, and that would be perfectly correct. But we would have to stop at expensive and use a full stop. And that is because we were speaking specifically about John. So the subject of the paragraph was John being a good mechanic who works at home, and he does not, he is not expensive. He does not charge you exorbitant prices for work that he does. So your first paragraph could read like this: John is a mechanic, full stop. He works at a shop at home, full stop. He always finishes the repairs on time, full stop. He does a good job, full stop. His charges are not very expensive, full stop. And that will be your first paragraph. Now, it will just take you on to the second paragraph, and then we will work on our own from there. So the second paragraph, and as I said at the beginning, each paragraph expresses a different idea, thought, or theme. So when you read through from last week, we are talking about something else. We are no longer talking about John as a mechanic. We are now talking about the fact that you took the car to his workshop, but you were told that he's in hospital and you're not sure when he will be able to do mechanic work. So, new paragraph. Last week, when I took my car to the workshop and John had an accident. Remember where you have and you have to say John had an accident and was hospitalized. So let's make some sense out of this because we're talking about not being ambiguous. So last week, I would not put the word when in. I would simply say last week, I took my car to his workshop, full stop. I say it again. Last week, I took my car to his workshop. That is a complete sentence. You can say, I was told that he had an accident and was hospitalized, full stop.
Question.
Yes?
Why can't we say that use his name instead of saying he?
You mean to say that where you want to put
So
his name?
instead of saying I took the car to the workshop and was told he was in accident, was
Right,
hospitalized.
I was
So
told that
correct.
John had an accident.
So
yes,
that
would
is
it
where
make
we have to,
sense?
you're correct, but you can insert either his name, you can say John had an accident, or you can use the pronoun and say he had an accident and was hospitalized. So there's nothing wrong in using the name John, which is the subject, pronoun, the subject or the noun, or the pronoun he. So it's up to you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Doesn't saying that you can express it different in different ways, but choose the one that you're comfortable with and is conveying the message that you want to deliver. So last week I took my car to his workshop. John had an accident and was hospitalized.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes.
Because there are several ways of writing this essay, this little short expose. So you choose the style that you like. But the idea is to let it conform to the standards of good paragraphing, good sentence construction and syntax, good punctuation. Now you would notice that when you look at this writing in the first instance, the sentences are long, a full stop just turns up here or there, punctuation marks, very few. But certainly when you do your assignment at home, you will discover that there are a lot of grammatical errors, not necessarily spelling errors, but grammatical in the sense that the punctuations, the syntax, the quotes, they are not where they ought to be or they're completely absent. Even in some instances, you will discover that there should be a capital letter and there's a common letter. So you're actually going through this exercise and you're critiquing it while you're making the corrections. So you are like the teacher with the English class, and this is the assignment that a person, one of the students has given you, and now you are going through it to make the corrections. So I have now promoted all of you to assistant teachers for this exercise. So the person who mentioned how they would insert John's name after workshop, that is fine. If you want to use the pronoun he, that is also fine. Now notice the next sentence say, his wife, Mary, told me that he was not sure when he would be able to start working again. Now ask yourself the question, is there an overuse of the pronoun he? Is there an overuse of the conjunction and can we use other words to substitute? And this is what I want you to do with your exercise. You're moving yourself or you're moving that student because you're the teacher, you're moving that student now from primary school understanding of English and grammar to secondary school, or you're moving them from secondary school to the tertiary level. And that is the exercise that you're having this morning. Short and sweet, but to be complete. So you can't say he wife. You have to use the possessive pronoun his. But I'm sure that from time to time you would receive reports and writings from some of your coworkers, sometimes the supervisor, sometimes the juniors, where either in the haste or the document was not proofread by an independent person, and sometimes these errors occur. And that is why it is always recommended that when you write an article or you type a report or whatever you do, let an independent unbiased person read or proofread it for you. Some of the best articles that are written, be they novels, books, dramas, they always have editors and peer editors, and they have person who would do the final draft, the second draft. Sometimes people write it over and over again until they get it quote unquote perfect. If you remember from the session yesterday, if this was a report to be submitted because John was unable to come to work. And for some reason now, his injury was the subject of an investigation. whether it was by the health and safety department, which is a legal entity, or the lawyer is looking to get some compensation because the equipment might have been defective from the outset when you purchase it. So what I want you all to do as a class, as persons in this training with me, whenever you write something, think in terms of who may have to read this document, who may have to rely on it to make a decision, or is this going to cause some change or some amendment or some adjustment to a policy? What are the far-reaching implications? And most of all, will this end up at a court or before a disciplinary tribunal? Because if the information is unclear, it's ambiguous, it's confusing, it is misleading, then it is going to be difficult for that tribunal to make an educated, decisive conclusion in relation to the matter. So if you keep that in mind when you're writing, who besides me has to see this, so that every sentence, every phrase, every choice of word makes sense. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with using synonyms. So you don't have to use one word over and over and over again, because we have the luxury of spell checkers and checking for the synonyms. So you can use other words to interchange so that it doesn't have to be and all the time, or but and because often, and I don't know where it happens, but when you listen to American television and those reporters, they're often saying but because or and because. The rule is never put two conjunctions side by side. So when you're rewriting this, make sure you do not fall victim to those common traps or pitfalls that occur often in writing. So are there any questions at this point in time?
No,
Yeah,
please.
Not at this moment.
right. So let me just finish off, and I'm going down to work. His wife, Mary, told me. Now you can either put this in what we call reported speech as it is written here. Mary told me that, or you can actually convert it into a direct quote. You would say, Mary told me, comma, open inverted commas, she is not sure or he is not sure when he will be able to start working again. Close inverted commas. And the full stop always comes before the close of the quote once you're using a quote. The full stop comes inside. There are some times when the full stop will come on the outside, but that is rare. It's not really used that much nowadays. So if you say, his wife Mary told me, comma, open inverted commas, he is not sure when he will be able to start working again, full stop, close inverted commas. And when you're reading it, you would say, his wife Mary told me, quote, unquote, he is not sure when he will be able to start working again. Or some people say, quote, and when they get to the end, they will say, close quote. It doesn't matter. But once you finish the sentence, even if you preface it by saying, Mary told me, quote unquote, then when you get to the word again and you pause, everybody knows that is what Mary told you. Now, we go on to say, I was disappointed and sad. Are you going to continue this as part of that paragraph, or are you going to introduce it as a new paragraph? Is there any relation between the fact now that you're not sure when John is going to start back work? So is that part of the whole transaction about you being told, or is your disappointment a separate and distinct scene, idea, or thought? It's a question to the group.
I'll make that new paragraph.
You would make it a new paragraph?
Yes.
Okay, that's one thought. Are there opposing thoughts? Go ahead. I'm listening for others.
I will add it into it.
Right? You can add it. There's nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, from his wife told me, until you get down to long time, right? You with me? Everybody see long time. Let me just use the mouse. I So from his wife Mary down to long time can be your paragraph. And the reason is there is no new information being added other than you saying that you're disappointed. That is in the normal course, but we're still talking about John being injured and uncertainty as it relates to when or how soon he would start working again. Are you following so far? From here
Yes, please.
down to here. But of course, you have to put in your appropriate punctuation marks and what have you. Now, you can start another paragraph with I just want to wish, because this is now a whole different expression of the writer's thoughts. They're reflecting now on what they were told. So, this is the response. I just want to wish Mary and John all the best, and you go on from there. So I am leaving it at this point for you to prepare it. You don't have to rewrite the scenario and then write your changes. You will submit only what you want to be assessed or to be critiqued so they can give you reasonable feedback. So don't rewrite the scenario and then add your things at the bottom. When you start, John is a mechanic, that is going to be what you are going to be submitting. The correct information with whatever changes that you are making. You don't have to highlight the changes or underline them because I will still have this scenario before me when I am looking at your assignment. Are there any comments, questions, or queries? Because this will bring me to the official close of the presentation for today. Is there anything anyone wants to say at this point in time?
No, please.
Great. So at this time, I want to say thank you for being a very worthwhile, entertaining, participative audience. I look forward for your quote unquote homework being submitted on time, and you will get the reasonable feedback within the coming week because Monday evening is the deadline for submission of this. This evening is the deadline for the submission of the earlier assignment. And therefore, during next week, I will send to each individual. Once you send it via your email, I will return your answers to you, but I will also send a general comment where I see any common challenges that were reflected in the writings. I will make the general comments, but I will not identify the person. So understand that you will get the general comments. If there's anything unique to an individual, I will send that specifically to that person only. But I will send to the entire group the general comments of your presentations. Is that okay with the group?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Hi,
If
Mrs.
Mr.
Thank
Allen
you.
Samuel.
has anything to add, he's free to do so, but have a great weekend, everyone.
Hi, Mrs.
Thank you.
Samuel.
Same to you.
Thank you. Same
See
to you.
you.
Thank you as
Bye.
well.
Hi, Mrs. Samuel. Before you leave, can you just read the end of the paragraph? Because on it,
Yes,
I
please.
am going home and
So
then.
somebody else is like you, Joanne.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you.